Hello everyone, it's 𝐒𝐻𝐸, and in this video it's my first listen to Anabelas by Bubu. I've been exploring the 1970s progressive and jazz rock scene of Argentina for some time now. You can find videos on my channel covering the projects of Luis Alberto Spinetta, Charly García and Crucis, and throughout that journey Anabelas by Bubu has been recommended to me several times, especially as people come to understand my deep love of the grand symphonic rock of Genesis, King Crimson, Magma. So I'm glad to finally get around to this one. I went into it not really knowing what to expect, but with high hopes for something special. The rest of this video will be highlights from my live stream over on Twitch, where I listened to the album in full for the first time. If you'd like to join me for some full album listening parties, you can follow me over there at twitch.tv/𝐒𝐻𝐸. So do me a favor and click the like button on this video, and let's get into the album. The first track on the album is the 20-minute epic, and it's called 𝐿𝐶𝐻𝐻𝐿 de un día amarillo. I actually don't know the word cortejo, so it's something of a yellow day. Courtship, as in the antiquated word for dating. Here we go. This is 𝐿𝐶𝐻𝐻𝐿 de un día amarillo. Album starting out with some jazzy chaos. Here we go. Nice heavy sound, strong production. Quite a bit darker than I was expecting. I'm loving the bass as well, Joe. The sound of the bass is fantastic too. Somewhere between early King Crimson and Soft Machine. Maybe a bit of Magma as well in the modalness of it. Oh my god. Whiplash. Oh yeah! Filthy. That sax playing was amazing. Oh, that's very strange. Damn. The discomfort of it reminds me of Van der Graaf Generator early stuff. It's so angular and unusual, it makes me think of Rock in Opposition. I feel like the production is quite a bit better than most Rock in Opposition I've heard. Cheeky. God, whatever next? Choir sounds glorious. And that saxophone. Heavy. Wow, that was hot. I guess the overwhelming feeling I have is that it was all so much darker and more intense than I was expecting. I suppose the album cover has a lot to do with that. It looks so bright and welcoming, so inviting, but the music is pure evil. I love that though. Yeah, that was fantastic. What a journey. The playing was so high quality. I was really impressed with how powerful it sounded. It sounded great, like, you know, that sound of 70s King Crimson. You can feel it in your gut. And yeah, so many great moments. Really a tour de force. Really satisfying journey. I think one of my favorite sounds in it was the saxophone. It had so much body in it and so much passion. The piece really moves through so many different moods. But yeah, the overwhelming one for me was the feeling of intensity in a way that I think has only really been hit for me by Magma. before. You know, definitely King Crimson to an extent, but I don't know. It's that kind of that really intense darkness that I've only really got from Magma before. Really enjoyed it, guys. Really enjoyed it. I feel like this has the potential to become a big favorite of mine. All the instrumentalists were excellent. The saxophone was my favorite, but they all were fantastic. The drummer was awesome. I loved how even during the sort of, maybe you could say more rigid, but fantastic classical sounding sections, the drummer was still swinging away underneath. I think that's what gave me a Genesis vibe a couple times, was because Genesis, that's what they have going on, you know, the sort of very ornate classical arrangements, but with Phil Collins just swinging, grooving underneath. And I felt that in this music too at a few points. I love that combination of more funky, groovy rhythm section with really grand and beautiful classical inspired arrangements. There is a singer in this band, but they didn't have too much of a role to play. You know, there were only a couple bits with vocals. Will there be more vocals in the other tracks maybe? Is this more of an instrumental suite? Or is the vocalist generally just one instrument? I guess in the same way as in Magma, that would be. You know, they have a main vocalist in Magma, but I wouldn't call him a lead singer. He's not the focal point of the group. He's just one instrument. And I guess I felt that way about the vocals in this track. Loved the choral vocals in this track as well. Sounded great. Track 2 is called El Viaje de Anabelas, the Journey of Anabelas. Here we go. Combination of classical and jazz here is so complete. Yeah, more saxophone please. It reminds me of Soft Machine again. Some of my favorite lines from Third. Hey, some lead vocals. God. Good lord. Oh yeah. Some medieval European vibes there. Almost sound like they could come from Jethro Tull. Okay, we're rocking now. Excellent. So much more to enjoy on that one as well. Maybe it felt slightly less coherent to me than the first track, that one, but that's okay, because pretty much all the sections that were there, I still loved them. Especially the early section that had them sounding like Soft Machine, early heavy Soft Machine, but with the flourish and intensity of Magma. And yeah, as Felipe said, the choir parts definitely remind me of Magma in the best way possible. I wouldn't say at any point they actually sound like Magma, but it's just that Magma feels like the only reference point for something this grand and this intense with its combinations of classical, jazz and rock. And it's great, you know, it's wonderful to hear something again that's reaching those heights for me, because I feel like for me, for the most part, Magma has been such a unique experience. So it's great to have Bubu doing something similar, but also sounding completely different. You know, it has a completely different feeling to it. Later in the song, we were into those more folky, kind of, like I said, European medieval kind of feelings, and some quotes that even sound like they could be from Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull, which sounded good, but maybe didn't give me the same kind of wow factor. I'm just holding them to a very high standard at this point, because the album has really impressed me multiple times now. But yeah, I loved it all. I could maybe do without some of the more bluesy guitar parts. Didn't really do it for me. But you know, it's a minor complaint. For the most part, I'm just enamored with it, really. We had some more lead vocals in that one, as I wondered if we would. There was quite a bit more lead vocals in that, and I was very happy with all the vocals. They sounded great. Very powerful voice our man has, and interesting melodies too. Pretty compelling. Again, that feeling of everything's rising up and I get swept away. All right, how about the third song then? Track 3 is called 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐩𝐸𝐿, which I think would mean Mannequin Dreams. Beautiful. Wow, the sustain on that bass. Feels like something of a Fripp and Eno. 2 minutes in and we're already somewhere completely different. Rocking out for the last song. That's crazy. Love that guitar playing. Oh yeah. God damn, what a cut. I think the singer's great. Clearly very skilled, but with a lot of passion as well. We're gonna end it with some extra intensity. Very Magma. Ending with some of the free jazz madness it began with. Fantastic. Thank you everyone who requested this to me, because you were right. This is definitely right up my street and I'm completely blown away by it. Great last song to go out on. At first, I thought it was going to be just kind of a rocker to go out on. Like the first few minutes of the song were more rocking, but no, like the rest of the album, it really had a lot more to offer than just that. And I adored some of the changes this one went through. Some of the best vocals on the album. Really loved the emotion in them. And then that ending passage drawing heavily from the Magma playbook. Loved that. So, Anabelas by Bubu. I think this has the potential to be a big favorite of mine. Really, really happy with it. I mean, from the moment the album started, I was like, yes, this is the sound. Had that punch and just that overall satisfying recording that it's just exactly how you want to hear prog rock. It just sounds fantastic. It's got that beefiness to it, but also clarity, you know, so you can hear what all the instruments are doing. I love that about it. There were a lot of touchstones I could hear, you know, they're clearly very influenced by a lot of great prog rock from the decade that they're operating in. Could hear so much early King Crimson in there. A bit of Genesis, not too much. I think what I was more surprised by was the more jazz fusion, but not like jazz fusion like Mahavishnu Orchestra, that kind of jazz fusion that often pops up in Argentine prog. It was more that kind of early heady days of jazz fusion like Soft Machine, like we were saying, where it was really like heavy on the rock side, but just using jazz instrumentation. Loved that stuff. And then on top of all that, you had this clearly very sophisticated classical influence going into the composition as well as the instrumentation, all the violins and everything else, the strings. It was glorious. Really equally balanced elements of choral music and jazz freakouts and rock, everything at once. Just beautifully balanced. Something I'm always looking for really in music, and it really delivered. So many memorable lines as well. I can't really believe how quickly the album went, because I was just so fully engaged the whole time, you know. And you can tell the guys that put this music together are real lovers of it, you know. They they love the great prog rock music, and they love all that jazz, and they love the classical music. You can just feel it. You can feel that they love all the elements, and they're just dizzy with excitement putting it all together. And as a fan of the music who also loves all those elements, you love to hear it, you know. It's like, yeah, you can feel the passion. I love that. This could be the most impressed I've been on a first listen in quite some time. It really did everything right. There were only, you know, a couple of minor complaints I had with regards to some of the guitar stuff, but you know, it's very minor. I wonder how I'll feel about how jarring some of the changes were over time. You know, on first listen, I just felt good about it because it was just so exciting. But I wonder if it's like too jarring at times, perhaps. Like it's so chaotic, the songwriting. It's a possibility. Well, I'll have to see how I feel about it after a few more listens. But on first listen, it was nothing but joy, nothing but excitement. So let me know down in the comments your thoughts on this album. And I want to say thanks very much to all my supporters over on Patreon. Whichever tier you support me at on Patreon, you get access to my archive of full unedited reactions. And you'll be helping me to be able to keep making these videos and keep my channels going. So I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take it easy.